and good afternoon, and welcome to the first roundtable of the Global Fashion Conference 2023. Today I'm joined with Andy Ruff, the CEO, Tony Burns, the COO, and Michael Cusack, the Head of Sustainability at ACS Clothing. So I'm going to start off with some questions to yourself, Andy. First of all, can I ask you, just tell us a little bit about yourself and your role here at ACS, and then the background of the company and how it evolved.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andrew Ruff. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at Advanced Clothing Solutions, ACS. ACS has now been operating for over 25 years. We probably one of the pioneers of circular fashion solutions, certainly in mainland Europe. We pride ourselves on keeping clothes in circulation. I have nothing to prove it, but I believe we are Europe's largest clothing cleaning and repair centre.
Okay, and where did ACS come from in terms of time frame, etc.? What time did you start?
Yeah, so the business was founded in 1997. In those days, we were providing menswear rental. So we would rent out garments to retailers who would then rent them out to the end user of that outfit. And as we were a Scottish company, at that time, it was purely Highland wear. So you could go into a store and rent a Highland wear outfit, the jacket, the kilt, even the sporran and the ski and do and socks, and then the company evolved from there. It was primarily a white label rental company. At that time, we were servicing purely retailers who were then servicing their customers. In 2018, we took the decision to evolve the company to start managing inventory on behalf of fashion brands and retailers. And that was a really big step for us because we were able to demonstrate that we could manage inventory on behalf of brands and retailers who wanted to enter the circular economy. And we did that through showing our expertise of maintaining garments in circulation, but very importantly, showing that we had the technology and the innovation on site to be able to assist and support brands that wanted to enter that space.
Okay, thank you. And in terms, obviously, you mentioned circularity in there. So obviously, ACS Clothing is a circular business. So what does that circular business format look like for this company?
Well, fundamentally, it's the DNA and the heartbeat of the company. We're very much focused on ensuring that clothing items are managed over a period as long as possible. We don't see them as being the traditional inventory items that maybe brands or retailers or the general public associate with clothing items. We see them as long-term assets, and they'll have many users over their lifetime. So it's a very different way of looking at it. From a sort of a brand perspective, we're asking them to think about them not as a current asset, but an asset that they will have lots of different revenues over its lifetime of that asset.
Okay, thank you. So in terms of other circular areas of the business, so yes, we're looking at the product there as being circular, but what other aspects of the business are circular?
There's so many different aspects. So the operations are incredibly circular. The team have done a fantastic job, headed up by Tony and Michael, at looking at the way that we operate as a business. We are constantly challenging ourselves. I think that's one of the things that differentiate ourselves from our competitors, is that we really challenge ourselves. We're trying to be very innovative. We've had a huge amount of support from academia and also government in actually enhancing the way that we maintain clothes, because fundamentally we are garment longevity specialists. So we're trying to keep clothes in circulation. That might sound a bit highbrow, but that's what we do. To give you an example of a really sort of extreme element, we have a canteen on site. The food waste that is produced in the canteen, which we try to minimize, we then compost, and then that's used to then grow vegetables, which are then served in the canteen. So that is a perfect example of a circular operation that we maintain within the organization, but it's so different to what we actually do.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in terms of the business environment that you find yourself in, obviously businesses evolve and change over time, as you've explained that you have done. What about the business environment that you find yourself in at the moment? How does that impact on the business going forward? Is it changing it?
Yeah, very much so. We're a really exciting point because we're here to support and facilitate the opportunity for fashion brands to enter the circular economy. We see ourselves as being really sort of a huge supporting arm to allow them to be able to change the way that they've operated for decades, taking that sort of linear model that they've traditionally followed, but actually demonstrating to them that circular solutions are not only more sustainable, but they're also more profitable for them, because you have to demonstrate the commerciality of what we're trying to do here and what we're trying to support to allow people to change the way that they've operated and operating at a level where they can go to their stakeholders and say the reasons for this change is not only about sustainability, but we're enhancing our profits for our shareholders.
Okay, great. And obviously within that changing environment, then obviously there's that growth for business. What challenges do ACS experience?
So the main challenges is that we are trying to change the way that an industry is operated for a long period of time. So you're asking a business to rethink about the way that they source their garments, the way that they've traditionally wanted to sell those garments to their customers. We're asking them to provide a service more so than a selling aspect. And that's quite a different way of looking at the way that you interact with your product. Because traditionally it's been manufacturing then selling, but we're asking them to manufacture and maintain those garments. And we're looking at it from rental. We're also looking at it from resale, because one of the aspects of resale at the moment is that so many brands are missing out on all that secondary income that is achievable pre-loved. What we're able to do and demonstrate for them is to allow them to enter that pre-loved second-hand market. So it's moving away from individuals like us selling a branded garment, because at the moment, the brand doesn't benefit from that transaction. The people that are benefiting from that transaction are you and I and the platform you're selling on, but not the brand. So the brand is missing out on all that opportunity for all that extra revenue, as well as supporting the opportunity to keep clothes in circulation. We've all seen the terrible bad press associated with how clothes are being wasted. And what we're looking at is cutting down that waste, which ultimately will be more profitable for the brand.
Yes, so do you see marketing as being a key area of that then, that there needs to be more marketing by the brands to highlight the use of the likes of the companies like yourselves?
Yeah, very much so. It's just looking at the way that they interact with their customers differently. We all love fashion. We all like to look good fundamentally. It's just looking at the way that you interact with fashion and don't feel guilty about it. I think that the younger generation, I'm obviously getting on in my years, but the younger generation are very much aware of where clothes are coming from, the waste associated with the fashion industry. And that is an inevitable journey that all the fashion brands and retailers are trying to address. And it's really good to see that, because they're very aware of what the traditional market was and how we're able to support them in that journey.
Yeah, great, thanks. Now, obviously, you're operating within the Scottish business environment, and there's challenges that come with it working within any business environment. But what help and assistance? You have mentioned earlier that you've worked with academia and governments and political parties, but how has that manifested itself?
Yeah, we've had tremendous support from Scottish Enterprise. Yes, we're a Scottish-founded company, but we're very outward-looking. We service the whole of the UK from this facility. We've got very strong strategic objectives to expand overseas into mainland Europe and maybe further afield. And so we're constantly looking at opportunities for us to grow and expand. But fundamentally, we've had great support from the business community. Scotland is, in my view, is always, to use a sort of boxing analogy, punched above its weight. We've been great innovators, and over the centuries, we've produced some fantastic products and services, which, given our size of nation, I think it's a fantastic achievement. And we continue to do that because we are constantly challenging ourselves, looking at ways of being innovative.
And you find government support helpful with that?
Yeah, government will always try and support businesses. As a business leader, I will always say that they could help us more. We definitely feel that we need support more on policy change. One of the things that we've been very much pushing for is a removal of sales tax on circular fashion solutions. And we believe that would really change the way that people could get access to circular fashion solutions, because you're immediately making it 20% less than the traditional offering that's available from retailers or brands. So policy definitely needs to change. And the team is in a lot of contact with government. We're trying to change and drive legislation, but ultimately we can give them our views, but we can't change the policy. We need government to make that change.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, I'm going to ask you one final question, Andy, before I move on to the others, but it's part of a sort of three-pronged question, because we're going to look at the three pillars of sustainability. So from an academic point of view, we always look at economic, environmental and social, but that also translates into the people, planet and profit. So just to ask yourself, from ACS perspectives, how does the economic or the profit aspect work for ACS? Because it's always the most challenging one in actual fact for sustainability, I think.
It is, but we can demonstrate that a lot of the actions that we've completed on site, which have been enhanced our sustainability profile, there was a business reason for it as well. There's a commercial reason for it. So we've saved costs due to some of the actions that we've done and completed, which have improved our sustainability. But you're right, people don't like to talk about profit. It's seen as a dirty word. But someone once said to me quite recently, you can't change the world if you're going bust. And I think that's probably a very, very true statement.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much for your input at the moment. So now I'm going to turn and ask questions of Michael, the Head of Sustainability, but I'll let Michael introduce himself as well. So first of all, Michael, I would like to ask you then about the environmental aspect of what ACS does from those three pillar aspects. But if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and then answer the question.
Hi, I'm Michael. I drive sustainability ACS. I feel I'm living a dream. It's a fantastic role. Every day I wake up, like my colleagues, we're making a difference. We're reducing the consumption in the fashion industry. And not only we're lessening the damage to the environment, but also having a social impact as well. And an industry has got a terrible reputation. So we feel we're making a difference. I feel I'm making a difference. In the environmental side, what I would say is that going back 5 years, when we basically started this journey, we actually eliminated all waste to a landfill, and within 7 months, with a 70% reduction in costs. It was a tremendous achievement. And it was the start of our journey. We learned a lot more about sustainability as a business, as a team. And from that, it's propelled us forward. We started monitoring our carbon footprint, understanding about consumption, understanding about sustainability, all the aspects of it. It's been a great learning experience for all of us. It's benefited the business. Some of the areas that we've been looking at, just to give you an idea, we have achieved 99.5% of all our emissions are now scope 3 this year. We consume renewable resources. So our energy is all in scope 1 and scope 2 is all renewable, apart from some diesel, white diesel, that we use in our sprinkler system. There's not a lot we can do about that. It's legislative. It's a fantastic achievement. We're working our way through Scope 3. So, for example, some of the exciting projects we're working on right now, we're looking at replacing our use of plastic, polythene as a shroud. We're actually looking at substances like shellfish. We're also looking at the sap from trees. The sap from trees, by the way, has actually carbon negative impact. It's a renewable, regenerative source. Absolutely incredible. We're also looking at, instead of consuming cardboard, we're actually looking at renewable packaging. So it's a lot of really exciting projects we're working on right now. And every year we're building on these projects. So it's not just about reducing our consumption. It's not just about reducing our emissions, but it's also about things like how we use water. We're also looking at that. So we harvest rainwater, we reuse water, from the water that's used in coolant and our dry cleaning. We harvest water from a roof. We also reuse water because in the laundry cycle, not all the water is actually dirty. So in the later stages, we capture that and we reuse it. But also some of the water that we use is actually hot, which means we don't have to warm the water because it was used as a coolant. It's hot water. We also have introduced some fantastic technology that Tony will share with you about the use of ozone gas. We actually have ozone gas in a laundry cycle, which is fantastic. And even the containers that have some of the residual chemicals that we're using in laundry are reused, and they used to actually be shipped out to be incinerated. We're actually reusing them now, and they're picked up in the return journey when the new chemicals are dropped off, so there's no additional carbon footprint with them. So there's a lot that we're focused on the environmental side. We're constantly driving it down. We're constantly investing in the business. We're constantly looking at innovative ways of taking out carbon emissions and reducing our consumption.
Okay, just to capture some of that there, Michael, you mentioned Scope 1, 2 and 3. Could you clarify a little bit about what Scope 1 and 2 and 3 are?
Well, in Scope 1 and 2 is all about our energy consumption, gas, electricity, other types of fuel that we're using. And that used to be the bulk of our emissions going back to 2018-19, when we started this journey. And what we've done is that we've actually moved to renewable sources. And we're not just stopping there. We're actually now investing in a full solar roof. We're working with a landlord in partnership. We're even looking at things like the introduction of wind turbines. And we're also looking at our office complex moving to heat pumps. So not only have we reduced our consumption in terms of, or moved towards renewables, we're also looking at ways that we can actually become off grid and actually generate all our energy on site. Scope 3 is absolutely massive. It's everything else, and it's the area that we're so focused on right now. Our highest carbon emissions are associated with things like the use of polythene. That's the highest. And as I say, we've got a very innovative solution that we're sharing with Andy and Tony in terms of the financials around that and what we're doing. The other thing as well is the move to renewable packaging, which reduces cardboard. The other things that we're doing that people don't take into account are things like staff commute to and from work, which is actually more than shipping items to our customers. So staff commute's a big area, and what we do is that we've introduced things like the electric vehicles. We've actually got an EV salary sacrifice scheme, which is very helpful. We also have our electric charging points on site, which is again fueled by renewable energy. We've also got a bike scheme where we actually encourage people to, buy bikes, buy electric bikes, buy pedal bikes. In addition to that, we're also looking at, and a great scheme that the company brought in, is actually people who travel sustainably to work get a free lunch, which proves there is such thing as a free lunch. So, there is a lot that we're doing there with our people. We monitor it on a quarterly basis. Hayley, our social sustainability manager, she actually goes through that. We survey our staff. and we're constantly looking away. We work with Travel Scotland. We actually get a lot of support from them, and we're a bit of a poster child for them. They're about to do a video case study on us, on our work, working with our staff. They've come up with a lot of suggestions as well, and ways that we can actually reduce our commute. We also, the guys are very much, the board are very supportive of home working as well. And we've got a lot of people who work from home, so they've got a sort of hybrid work pattern, and it works very well. So there's a lot that we're doing there, but there's areas where obviously that when we, at the times where, garment manufacture has a high carbon cost, and we're looking at creative ways that we can reduce that as well. And shipping, we've actually working with a network of, providers who transport sustainably, like Zedify. We've got a good relationship with them. We're constantly looking at building upon that.
Okay, thank you very much. That then brings us to that last pillar then of looking at the social or the people aspect. You mentioned it a little bit there about the free lunch there, and that was obviously a very positive thing. But what other social aspects do ACS offer?
Well, one of the things that we're all proud of is the fact of the diversity in our business. And it all stems back in, unfortunately, we're not great advocates for Brexit. It happened, we took it in the chin, but it's had a big impact on our business, both from an export perspective, and also it has a big impact on our staff, because a lot of our staff, and they were very highly skilled and had a fantastic work ethic, was from the Polish community. And we lost a lot of them, and we started to look at creative ways in which we could actually, basically attract and develop people in our work. So what we did was that we thought, well, there must be more that we can do as a business to have an impact in society and in the local communities. And what we started to do was we focused in on people from the disadvantaged community. And what we did is we attracted people in with disabilities, we attracted people from the refugee community. But the other thing as well that we did was we were well aware of poverty. And again, I'm proud to be part of a company that pays the real living wage, and we operate living hours. And we do a lot of work in that. We even brought in credit unions because, again, the area we live in, there's high deprivation. There's a lot of doorstep lending. That's loan sharks to you and I. And the other thing as well is a lot of people take advantage or are taken advantage of by payday loans. So, the fact that we've embraced a credit union, it's had a big impact. We work with the local council as well in terms of providing training, fiscal training, helping people, providing information about their benefits. So we do a lot of really good work there as well. The other thing as well is that we are an SQA centre, so we develop our own people. How many SMEs do you know that actually have over 20 modern apprentices? That we've been developing young people for many years, that we actually have a fantastic impact in the local schools. How many organisations do that? Well, we do these things and we're proud of it, and it has a big impact. It also makes us more attractive. We get a lot of ministerial visits, and we do play a wee bit, maybe I shouldn't admit to this, but bingo with the ministers and the Scottish Government, with quite a lot of people visiting us from different parties, interested in what we're doing, which tells us that we must be doing something good. And it's very encouraging, the feedback they give us. But from our perspective, we've got high tenure, we've got a lot of really good staff, we invest a lot in their development, they appreciate it, and we try to do our best in terms of giving them good terms and conditions, and that's resulted in things like the fact that we won the B, that we're a B Corp, make a very high score because of the work that we do. We're very proud of that, and we're building on that. We also won the Sustainability Development, the King's Award for Sustainable Development, and the first organisation to do so. And we're very proud of that, and we're looking to build on that and go for the Social Award next year as well. So social impact, the people, the community is very much core to everything that we're doing. It's helping us grow as a business. And if you go down and talk to staff, it's a wonderful place to work in. Absolutely wonderful. The diversity, the inclusion that's happening there. It's just people smiling, and it's a pleasure to work here.
Thank you. You did mention communities there, and you touched on some of the sort of external communities, but how do you bring these communities into ACS?
There's lots of ways. The one that I'm really buzzed up about right now, and it's coming to conclusion, we've got a celebration happening next month, is actually we've invited in a lot of schools to work in the sustainability development goals. And each of these schools were given one of the goals. And what they did was they analysed what we as a company were doing. They came back with suggestions and ways that we could improve. So we gave them access, we gave them lots of information. They understood about our business. They understood about the sustainability development goals as well. The thing is, we're looking at further partnerships on that. There's a big celebration coming up next month, but we're looking at the next phase of that. So it's opening us up and it's helping the community better understand about sustainability, understanding the role of a business in that. And as I say, organisations like Education Scotland, the Developing Young Workforce, are just over the moon about it, that there is a business willing to work with them on these really serious, important and difficult topics.
Thank you, Michael. Now I'm going to move on to Tony. And Tony, I'll let you introduce yourself as well. And we're going to ask sort of slightly wider questions there now. What role does technology and innovation play in driving the circular economy of the fashion business models forward? So maybe not just ACS, but for all businesses trying to be circular.
Well, I am Tony Barnes. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at ACS. If we think of technology and innovation, thinking first of all of innovation, we're actually, despite the fact we've been about for 25 years, we are enabling what is relatively nascent circular business models. Yes, men's formal wear is quite traditional and lots of people know about it, but subscription rental, e-commerce, resale, repair of items on an industrial scale, these things haven't been prevalent. So the models that we actually enable are innovative and new in their own way. And what we're trying to do is use technology and innovation as a tool to accelerate the adoption of these models, because we are still an SME. We're working with organisations who have much deeper pockets and are much bigger than us, much more resources. So using technology is a great way to sort of level the playing field. But also, if you think about the barriers to the adoption of rental clothing, of second-hand clothing, pre-loved, the biggest barrier is probably perception from customers about cleanliness, about odour, about germs. When you think about that, how do we break down those barriers and actually, first of all, physically sanitise garments, but also actually give customers the confidence that using rental garments or second-hand clothing is a good option. So we introduced many years ago, 12 years ago, ozone technology, which has been touched on. Now, ozone technology, we're one of the early adopters of this. Ozone technology basically sanitises garments to medical grade standard. And while it does that, at the same time, it means we don't need to use very energy intensive processes to clean garments, like maybe dry cleaning or laundry. And at the same time, by using ozone, it's kind and it's environmentally friendly, it's good to the garments, means they're not going in drums of liquid. They're not actually suffering from mechanical action in machines. We actually showed a potential partner a few days ago a dress which in less than 4 years had been rented 61 times. And that dress had actually only been in laundry 9 times, but it had been sanitised every single time it came back, and it was in excellent condition. Our partner looked at it, potential partner looked at it, and said it was excellent. And that as an illustration and evidence of how using technology supports extending the life cycle of garments. And also, it means that if brands and retailers can rent garments 61 times, it shows that there's so much more profitability to be had from that garment than selling it just once. Going a bit further on the ozone technology, we've actually ourselves, we have worked with academia and Innovate UK to create the next sanitisation chamber. It's actually a combination of technology. We've patented it. It's ozone and UV. And the throughput will be much, much higher. And it's designed to the UK and US standards in terms of cleanliness, to put that into perspective, how clean will our garments be? Well, our garments will be much, much cleaner than a good food preparation area, even an excellent food preparation area. So we believe that adopting types of technology like that will help us grow rental pre-loved clothing. Think also about technology. Several years ago, we started to put RFID tags in all our garments because they are a great way for us to be able to track garments on behalf of our partners throughout the facility and the supply chain. And these RFID tags are also could be used as a tool to allow brands and retailers to adhere to the EU strategy in textiles, which is in various stages of fruition just now, because every garment needs to have a digital passport. And by us retrofitting RFID tags into them, that will allow our partners to adhere to the EU strategy in textiles. But also, if you think about a pre-loved garment, people that are buying pre-loved, they want to actually know about the history of the garment, about what's happened to it. They want to know that maybe someone on site has repaired the burst seam, someone has added up a button, they've taken out a little dirty mark, because it's of interest to them. So having that technology allows us to then illustrate to the consumer, to the end customer, what's actually happened during the life cycle of that garment.
Okay, thank you. That's really all very, very interesting. At the very beginning, you mentioned there that obviously as an SME, finances can be challenging, but are there benefits of being an SME? Are there things there that actually create an advantage for you?
Well, as a small company, we're a small team. We'd like to have more people in the team, but we're very agile. We can make decisions really quickly, and we are very nimble. So when we see something which we think will work, there's not a lot of red tape, there's not a lot of administration, we go ahead, crack on and do it. But also as an SME, I think Andy touched on it earlier, we've had great support from a variety of different organisations. Michael mentioned skills and training. We've had great support to realise things like an SQA centre where we actually can train our staff on site, can create our own talent pipeline. And that's only with the help of organisations like Skills Development Scotland and UKFT, with creating programmes that allow us to upskill our staff.
Okay, great. And obviously you mentioned there, obviously innovation and creativity and the way in which you think and approach is very key to all of this, perhaps maybe a very Scottish way of approaching business. So is that something that you'd want to take forward, to keep looking creatively and to look for new innovation, because obviously, and use new technologies?
Without a doubt, we have worked extensively, and this has been mentioned before, with academia, and we work with schools. And it's amazing when you deal with young people, whether it be school or university, they have such creative ideas. And only next week, we're actually visiting a university in the EU who some of the students there, business students, are working on projects to look at how we could potentially expand what we do with our circular business models in other geographies.
Okay, great, thanks. I mean, and obviously this, the circular business model that you're following, how do you think you could encourage more brands? Because obviously the fashion industry is just awash with brands and companies, and from fast fashion to luxury to discounters, they're all there. So how do you encourage even more brands to work with you and other circular businesses per se?
Well, Andy mentioned it earlier about legislation. I do think we need legislation to support. There's legislation in so many other industries. I have an electric car, part of the salary sacrifice scheme. It's one of the nicest cars I've ever driven, but also one of the cheapest. And it's because legislation is in place to support the growth of EV cars. But also I have solar panels on the roof of my building, at my home. I have a heat pump. And I had half of the cost of that funded by Scottish Government. So it allowed me to adopt a more sustainable way of heating and powering my home. I think that needs to happen with the fashion industry also. So we've been working on a variety of different things, talking to everything from the United Nations to the Prime Minister about how we realise that change and the support that sustainable fashion needs to allow customers to maybe have a slightly cheaper way of embracing a new type of fashion. At the same time, from a brand and retailer perspective, adopting new models is a big step change from where they've been. So they are probably unsure. They want to, they really like that, it's going to be potentially more sustainable, but they want to ensure that the unit economics of these models all work for them. So what we need are more case studies. RAP and Textile 2030 are doing great work around evidencing how sustainable different business models might be, about how profitable different business models might be, but we need more than just them doing these things. It's great for us to be able to evidence that different types of rental, subscription rental, resale are all really profitable, but we are obviously biased and we're too wrapped up in it. We need independent sources to look at this and say, here is good commercial and environmental and social rationale why brands and retailers should adopt other types of new types of circular business models.
Okay, great. And one final question before perhaps we take some questions from those listening in. What trends do you see emerging in the future of sustainable and circular fashion business models? Obviously, you're working just now towards a model that the ACS are working with, but perhaps where do you see yourself going in the future?
Well, if you think about the backbone of our business, clothing rental, if you ask most people on the high street about clothing rental, they think about renting a suit, a tuxedo. They don't probably think about all the other types of rental that we enable on site just now: dresses, ski wear, baby clothing, subscription clothing. And in the UK in particular, subscription clothing isn't as prevalent, it's not very prevalent at all. In the US, it is. So what we will probably see, undoubtedly see, is the growth of subscription rental, where brands and retailers can monetize items like skirts, blouses, trousers, shirts, items that we all wear day in, day out. So we'll see a real growth in that. What we're going to see is more growth of resale as brands and retailers realize that there's a great way of realizing additional income via utilising the stock, which was previously a problem for them. There's things that we can do with this, but also if you think about these resale items, the raw materials, the products that are sitting in warehouses, these items can be used to actually make remade items to actually create bespoke pieces, which then can command a higher price. And then further to my earlier point, it creates an item where there's a story about it. This particular jacket that I bought might have the sleeves off of one jacket and the body part on the lining of something else. And actually, it's even more attractive to the customer. So remade items will become more and more prevalent.
Okay, thank you very much all for your contribution.